he is. How are you, mate?
Very well, how are you?
Good, thank you, very good.
Happy Valentine's Day, you fat face.
That's the one.
Sir Barrett. Sir Bad News of Barrett.
That's me.
How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Rehabbing my injury. Hopefully the not too distant future, I'll be back in the ring and performing again in front of the crowd. So looking forward to that.
Have you got a return date yet, or is it still up in the air?
Well, the surgeon has said it's going to be the 1st of December. I'm saying that I want to be back before that because I see that as a personal challenge to beat that. We have the European tour coming up in November, so obviously being an Englishman, and that's one of the highlights of my calendar, I want to be back for that, and I hate missing those tours. So fingers crossed I'm going to be back for the November tour covering all of Europe.
You want to get that pop again, don't you?
You know, I live for that.
So just talking about the game, here we are, 2K15 launch event. What surprises you about the game? Because we were at the launch event of last year's game, and we thought, yeah, that's incredible, that's amazing. And we're quite surprised at how technology seems to have advanced yet again in just 12 months.
That's it. I come from a generation, my first computer that I ever played on was a Spectrum 48K, so I'm used to a maximum of 4 different colours on the screen at any one time, and tiny little blocky characters that didn't look like anything more than a square moving around. So when I saw the first game I was in, which was the 2010 video game, that was my debut in video games, I was blown away. I couldn't believe how great it looked, how realistic it looked, and I was like, there's no way they can make this any better now. But every year they make it better and better and better, and I think the jump from 2014's game to 2K15, which is the new one, I think is the biggest jump I've seen in the time I'm up here. I mean, they've used so much new technology in terms of the scanning systems, the gameplay, the way they've implemented how matches progress with chain wrestling and stuff like that. It just completely blows my mind how they're able to do that. And I think this new generation of consoles has come into the PS4 and the Xbox One. It's allowed them that extra technology they've needed to make that leap forward. And this one is literally like watching your TV, watching Raw, watching WrestleMania. That's how the game plays out. So it blows my mind. It's incredible.
And so did you do an Andy Serkis on Planet of the Apes? Did you do the motion capture stuff?
You know what? They had me dress in my underwear. And there was about 7 guys staring at me. All I could wear was a tiny little pair of white fronts.
It's just a normal day for you, isn't it?
Thankfully, they were clean. And then I stood in the middle of this room, and they shot these cameras spinning around me. They had all these mirrors everywhere. It was kind of a humiliating experience. But the payoff is that they get this great video game. So, I mean, like I say, the movement, everything they've captured is so good. You will be amazed at how. I was playing as Antonio Cesaro earlier, and literally the way he throws a punch on the video game is so unique. He throws it very unique in real life, and it's captured exactly in the video game. The way he struts, the way he moves, his motion, it's amazing how they're able to capture that so precisely.
It's really impressive, Randy Orton, the way he was sort of pacing the ring in the demo we saw earlier. Exactly. Are you a gamer yourself? I imagine you don't have much free time, but are you a gamer?
Kind of the problem with being a WWE superstar is you get maybe 1 day off a week if you're lucky, and that 1 day off you've got to pay your bills, you've got to wash your clothes, you've got to pack your bags again, you've got to do a 1,000 things around the house, and that doesn't leave too much time for hobbies, unfortunately. So my video gaming exploits kind of ended for a while. They've been put on pause while I'm with the WWE, but I'm sure I'll pick it up again one day.
You don't wash your own clothes, do you?
Unfortunately, I do. I live alone. I've got to, I don't have a maid there. Maybe I should get one.
You need to get yourself a girlfriend.
Well, I have a girlfriend. She doesn't live with me at the moment.
You've got a girlfriend, have you? Anyone we know?
You wouldn't know her, no.
So let's just talk about your career. We've spoken about your career in the past, but I want to ask you, what's been the best night on the job so far, and what's been your worst night on the job?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. Best night on the job. I mean, I've had a few really, really good moments, but I'd say the day we debuted as Nexus, there's a bunch of NXT rookies that no one really knew who we were. We were just a bunch of young guys who were desperately clawing and trying to live their dream after sacrificing so much for years and years on the independent scene or in developmental or whatever it was, and really being treated like dirt for that entire time. You're this guy who's just trying to get a break, And the day we walked down to the ring, smashed the ring up, beat up John Cena, and walked to the locker room afterwards, I felt like a complete weight had been lifted off my shoulder, and it felt like I'd really made everything I'd sacrificed had been made worthwhile in that moment. I knew that would live forever, and that was a huge moment, and that kind of solidified us as new WWE superstars. So I think that will be almost impossible to beat unless one day I win the WWE World Heavyweight Championship,
which you will.
Obviously in my sights, but hopefully I get that one day. In terms of the worst day ever. I mean, I've had a couple of injuries. They're never good days, obviously.
Anything funny happened in the ring? Anything gone spectacularly wrong?
You know what? The stuff that goes wrong is the kind of stuff I can't talk about usually. There's stuff I would love to tell you, but it would just it's a peek too far behind the curtain for my liking. I like to keep up a little bit of mystique sometimes. So yeah, unfortunately, the stuff that goes wrong, I'm not going to be able to talk about.
Do you think that mystique is missing? But I mean, do you think people do know too much about the industry now?
I think so. I remember when I was a kid how much magic was back, and I was probably 19 years old when I finally clicked in my brain that these wrestlers that I've been watching are real human beings. They're not cartoon characters. In my head, they were just built up as these crazy guys who were pretty much cartoon characters. Only when I read Mick Foley's first book, Have a Nice Day, that he finally clicked in my head, wow, this guy's a normal human being. He had a normal life before he did that. And that actually set the ball in motion for me to become a wrestler too, and kind of something triggered in my brain when I read that book. But yeah, I think so, but I think it's just inevitable the way the world is these days that everything gets exposed. There's an argument in the locker room that's immediately somehow ends up on social media, and everybody knows what's happened before the rest of the guys in the locker room have found out. So there is a little bit too much of that. I don't think there's anything you can do. It's just the way the world is. In some ways it's good, in other ways it's bad. I'd love to bring back a bit more mystique though.
But that's why you should be very proud of the Nexus debut, because that was the kind of moment where you watched it and you're like, oh, is this real? There was a big question mark over that, and that's amazing.
The more kind of coverage we get and different social media platforms and internet exposes everything we do, the harder it is to get that genuine, shocking reaction from an audience. And I'm very proud of that moment in particular as one of those rare moments in WWE where we got a genuinely angry audience who are furious at what these young upstarts have done. Genuine anger, which was, like I say, it was a pretty cool moment.
Yeah, it's incredible. Well, best of luck for getting back for the big UK pop in November.
I'll be there, you know.
Yeah.
Great.